Hello, this is the Layman's Logic podcast, and I'm your host, Lou. Layman's Logic is a platform for the everyday person to share their experiences in life. Through sharing, we hope to encourage others to push forward on the journey they are on and give advice from a layman's perspective. We are not formally educated or trained on the topics discussed. We simply use experience and common knowledge to try and make it make sense. On this episode, we will be discussing what it's like living within the prison system, actions that can lead you there, and starting life over after being released. Today's guest has spent 19 plus years incarcerated. He will be sharing with us his experiences and giving his point of view on life before, during, and after. I would first like to start off by looking at some of the numbers. How many people are incarcerated yearly in the United States? According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, in or around the late 70s, the prison admission rates were about 180,000 a year. It seemed to slowly increase throughout the 80s and reached its peak around 2009, with a whopping 800,000 people being admitted to either state or federal prison. As of 2019, those numbers climbed to about 600,000 yearly. Private prisons add to those numbers about 100,000 people per year. So, sheesh, that's a lot of people incarcerated yearly within the United States, and I'm sure each experience is different depending on the individual. Now, let's welcome Mr. Robert Coward. So, hello. How are you doing today?
Hello, how you doing, lady? I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm fine, thank you. So, we're going to go ahead and start off with the number one question I would have, and that is, how old were you during your sentencing?
I was arrested for my crime when I was 21. I was sentenced a year at the age of 22.
Oh, okay. And what were the charges?
The charge was second degree murder.
All right. And was that your first time being arrested?
No, I had been arrested approximately 5 times before that incident there.
Okay. I would like to ask, what was your state of mind like during the arrest?
There were a lot of things on my mind, but particularly I was thinking about not being able to, to see the streets for a while. And then, like I said, started to think about my family and how they would feel and think about the situation that I had placed myself in.
Okay. And during your case, did you have a private lawyer or a assigned attorney?
Well, in the beginning, I had a private lawyer, and later down the line, the funds ran out, so I had to get what they call an ATB from the state.
Were you anticipating the sentence ahead of time, or were you kind of shocked and your lawyers made you feel kind of optimistic?
Well, my lawyer did make me feel optimistic, but in the beginning, I really didn't anticipate any time because I was thinking all along that I was going to, beat the charge.
Okay. Did you feel like in any way, only because this is a big conversation going on throughout the United States, do you feel like race had any effect on your sentencing or, anything during the process of the trial or the case?
Well, in my case, I can't say that. Although that does, that happens, but I can't say that in my case that race played a part into that.
Okay. Thank you for that honest answer. And how many years was the sentencing?
Well, I was originally sentenced to 15 years to life, which is the lowest part of a second-degree murder charge. However, I ended up doing 28 years before I was released.
And with the sentencing being 15 to life and you doing 28, was that because of like good behavior, or is that typical of a case like that to come home at about that time?
Well, at that time, it was typical of those type of cases because what happened was you have to go and see a parole board in order to be released, and the parole board wasn't really releasing violent felons.
Okay. After your sentencing, how long did it take you to process that this was going to be your new life inside of, prison?
Well, it actually took a couple of years. Once you start to get into what we call the bed. You start to get into the bed. You start to realize that hey, you're gonna be here for some time. So, what are you gonna do? What are you looking for?
Were you sent to straight to prison, or did you have to go to, I guess, like county jail first? And if so, can you explain the differences between the two?
Yeah, well, usually after arrest, you're sitting in a county jail until you are sentenced, actually convicted. Once you're convicted, you're transferred to a state prison, which is usually what they call the like central Brooklyn, but they call it a reception.
Okay.
Yeah, so they can kind of like I guess like kind of wean you into going into the prison system.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so after reception, then you go to a designated prison.
Do you feel like there was a major difference between the county jail and the prison?
Oh, of course, there's a big difference. For one, just take the county jails. I mean, there's really not a lot for the guys to do that's in prison there, such as trying to get in some type of program to figure out what's going on with their lives or people to talk to. Whereas that once you get into the state prison system, they have all of these different outlets where you can go and you can address certain issues that you may have, say anger or any type of issue like abuse, drug abuse, or so you can address those things up in the state prison, whereas you can't do those things in the county jail because they don't have those resources.
Okay. And once you got into prison, was it like one prison for the entire stay, or did you have to go to like were you moved from prison to prison?
Well, during the time, I was moved from prison to prison.
Okay. This might be a silly question. Did you prefer one over the other?
No, it's not a silly question because all in all, there are some prisons that are better than others. The cleanliness, the attitudes with the other prisoners, the attitudes with the corrections officers and facility staff. So no, it's not a silly question, but there are some prisons that can be preferred over others.
Okay. I was actually going to ask that next about the living conditions. When you first arrived to prison, were you shocked at the living conditions, or were they pretty much like what you expected?
Well, no, I was shocked because it takes a little time to get over that shock. For instance, let me give you an example. Like when the gates close, it has a metallic bang to it. So you have to get used to that, and then you have to get used to them opening up in the morning. There's a lot of things to get used to. After a while, that shock starts to recede, and then you can start really getting into doing what you have to do.
Now, were you afraid when you went there, when you got into, prison? Did you have any fears attached to being there as far as the inmates?
No, and I don't say that braggingly, but no, my whole thing was that before I even got there, even in the county jail, I learned that once you mind your business, you'll be all right. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, I would think that was smart. That probably would be a route I took, if I was in that situation. Did you have a strong support system prior to being incarcerated?
Yeah, I had a pretty good support system, man. A few families, a few friends, and you know, it was a pretty good support system compared to many others. So
So, what do you feel like really put you in a space to where, because you did say you were arrested a few times prior to that sentencing, what do you think had the strongest impact on, I guess the behavior behind getting you, arrested for the most part? Was it environment? You said you had a medium kind of like support system, so do you think like it was the environment that played a role, like in the neighborhood?
well, the environment always plays a role, but it's more so on the person, such as myself. I mean, I don't blame the environment, whatever. However, I do blame myself for allowing myself to get involved with the seedy part of the environment. Then once you get into, once you start to live that type of lifestyle, You start to take on the attitude where it's like, okay, nothing, I'm invincible. Nothing can happen to me.
Right. Right. So let's talk more about like you actually being inside and what it was like. Were you a loner, or was it easy for you to like make friends or associates for the most part?
Well, I didn't really make too many friends. However, I did associate with many people and all of that stuff because I figured, hey, listen to me, I'm in here. It's time for me to get my life together and figure out what I want to do. So I had to seek out people that was actually doing things positive and just get behind that trail.
All right. And while you were there, what are some of the things that people have access to within there? Because when I look at some of the social media platforms now, we see a lot of guys who actually make like TikToks and stuff while they're in jail. They have access to phones and all these other things. So, what did you have access to in terms of like TV, outside clothing? I've even heard of jewelry or phones.
Well, we always have access to a telephone. It's just recently, within the last couple of years, post-release, that they started to have a computer system put in to where that the guys can have tablets and they can email family and do all these other things. And, you do have access to television from time to time. Now some jails also have television in their individual cells. We have access to, recreational activities. You have access to schooling. As I mentioned earlier, access to therapeutic programming, such as alcohol, substance abuse, anger management, and religious services. And I mean, there's a great, many things that you have access to inside there.
Did you personally take advantage of any of those programs?
Yeah, I personally took advantage of a lot of those programs, especially the one that was going to lead me into enjoying a positive life while I'm inside and preparing for my release.
While you were in there, did you go through any moments of like guilt or like depression, or was it just like, hey, accountability and I'm going to accept this and live in, the circumstances?
Well, even today, and I've been released, 4 years now, even today, I still have moments where that I have a bit of guilt because of what I've done and the hurt and harm that I've caused. But I wouldn't say that it brought me to a point of depression. Because like I said, there was always something positive, there was always someone positive that you can sit there and talk to and, you can go through some things, you know?
Okay, okay. Now, I do have some questions that I think a lot of people want to know, and I think in some cases it might actually help people to know if some of these things are actually happening. There are a lot of rumors about things going on within the prison system, such as, rape amongst inmates, joining crews or gangs. I've even heard as far as intercourse with the COs and weapons that are made. Are there any truth to those rumors, I would say, about the jail system?
Well, yes, there are those, all of those above, true, but they're not as extreme as people make them out to be. Let me give you a quick example. All right, you started off with rape. I have known cases where individuals will come in and they will get raped by another, or even a guard. However, it's not as prevalent as people think it is. It was a once in a pretty big blue moon thing, you know.
For one of my concerns for people who are incarcerated of like maybe, let's say some crimes are lesser than others, the impact of the other inmates. Do you feel like that's an environment where you come in and you basically can learn how to be good at other crimes that maybe weren't on your roster?
Well, I've seen individuals actually do that. I can't say personally if it works, but I've actually seen individuals come in and they try to practice, bettering themselves at criminal activities. So yes, that's that is a part of it.
Okay. And when you left there, did you? I know you said you had like a few associates. Did you like miss any of them when you left, or you know?
Well, yes, I mean, of course, you're gonna miss them because you establish a relationship with people, and in a sense, they become like your family, your second family or so. And you do miss them, because the camaraderie, all of those things. We laugh and joke, and and there are times when we get serious. We don't want to. It's the same thing as a family unit. And yes, you will miss, some of those people. Not only the prisoners, you'll miss some of the guards because you have guards in there that are assisting you. It's yes, you do miss. It
No,
sounds crazy, but you do miss people.
I could understand that you're around people for long periods of time, so it definitely makes sense. I want to jump back just for 1 second, like with your support system and stuff while you were in there. How often were you receiving things from the outside, whether it was commissary or letters, things of that nature?
Well, you can receive letters every day in the mail. It's like on the outside. There are food packages that can be sent to you or purchased for you once a month or so, and clothing. You can basically get anytime. But I didn't really utilize those things too much because they had basically everything I needed in it. You have some people that actually utilize those things a lot. They store up a lot of clothing and food and all those things. Yeah, in the beginning, the first couple of years, I have done those things. I have called and said, "Listen, can you send me this or can you send me that?" But as you go along, in what we call programming and working, you take certain programs or you find certain jobs where you're able to do these things on your own. So, those things I never really participated in too much.
Okay, so now with you coming home within 28 years, was that something that you had to petition for, or was it something presented to you due to like good behavior?
What do you mean petition? Oh, you talking about the release?
Yes.
Well, yeah, like I said, I should have been released from the sentence, which was 15 to life. However, I ended up doing 28 years. But in preparing for that release over those years, it was a lot smoother. It was a lot more smoother within that transition.
Okay. How did you feel once you knew that your release date was coming? Were you like anxious? Were you like relatively calm until it came? Did it create like sleepless nights?
Well, yes, I mean, I was anxious, and I may have had a sleepless night or two. I can't actually recall at the moment. But yeah, I was very anxious because, you wait for that moment when they said, okay, you're going to be released. And then you're waiting for the day that you're actually released. And then once you're released, you're looking at all of the changes that is taking place throughout the world, actually. So yes, anxiety was very, it was
You were
very,
very anxious.
it was very real.
Now, at your release, was there a family member to pick you up, or did they release you and give you like transportation or?
Yeah, when they released me, I elected to take the transportation that they offered because I actually wanted to view the surroundings that I've been in all of those years. Because in most cases, in most prisons, you can't see because they have tall walls.
Yeah.
So I actually wanted to view the surroundings and things as I traveled on that bus and kind of get a sense of how things were going.
Now, the support system that you started with, was that the same support system that was throughout? Was it like the same people, or did it kind of alter a little bit, like from one person to the next?
Well, it altered, and mostly it altered because of the fact that many of those people that were there from the beginning, they've passed on in life, and that's again that's one of the biggest things of being incarcerated. You don't know how those things are going to work out, and once you get to that point of release, then you start to feel the pain and the hurt of not having those individuals there to welcome you back into society.
Coming home, like once you actually got home, do you feel like the support was still there, or was there an increase of support from your family or friends that were around, you know? That's
Because
awesome.
I think it was increased, so I wasn't the only one waiting to be released. Other people were waiting to be released when I was released. So yeah, it was an increase.
And did you still feel like institutionalized? Only because I have some personal experiences with family members who came home from prison, and it drove me crazy. They woke up early in the morning, like in the door, like it was just a lot. They were like cooking prison meals, you know. So when you came, did you still follow the same routines for a while, and how long did it take for you to kind of break that?
Well, a lot of those routines, yeah, I still follow. And it didn't take too long. Once I started to get out there to mingle with different people, meeting new people and finding things to do. The thing is though, that reverse process, it I believe it affects everyone in some way and to some degree. It is important that you ask that question because see, a lot of times, especially when you mention the word institutionalized, and in some senses that can be good. However, it can be dangerous as well. You know what I mean?
Could could you give examples of some of the dangers attached to it?
Okay, it depends on the things that you're using as being institutionalized. Like you mentioned, okay, some people getting up early in the morning, some people probably standing in doorways that looking scared. Some people, for instance, some people might hold the toilet tissue and house utensils up in their room instead of put them in their proper space in the house. You know what I mean? Those are dangerous because of the fact that see now you're becoming more what they call, I wouldn't say, what's the word I'm looking for, not sociopath, but becoming more antisocial.
Okay.
Whereas then on the other hand, they help you when you're out in society because of the fact that okay, you're more conscious now of how easy it is to get back into the environment that you just left.
Now, do you feel like coming home, even though you had the support system, do you feel like those people treated you any different, you know, being that they, you know, you did just come home from prison? Because I would imagine, let's say somebody came home from stealing, you know, that maybe the family might be a little reluctant to keep things around them, or do you feel like there was a change in the way that people handled you?
That's something that I really haven't thought about. But being able to ask the question, I can say yeah, because the happiness and all of those things, they kind of subside after a time because now they're expecting you to say, okay, listen here, join life, join society. You got to start doing what we're doing now. We're not giving you no more handouts and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. I can understand it. Now, a major question for me that I would like to ask you is, how was it going in at, what did you say, like 21 years old, and then coming home much older? How was your view on society, and how long did that take to like till you could kind of process it, you know?
Well, see, again, I have to say, in my particular situation, I had the privilege of gaining higher education about things in life. So my view on coming home, I have to say that those educational tools and training helped me to be more patient and understanding what's going on in society, so that way I can somewhat ease into it easier.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense to you.
And when you got home, I know you say you took up training and some areas, some programs you participated in. How difficult was it to gain employment, and were you able to implement any of the things that you learned, you know, to gain employment?
Well, actually, I think those things helped me gain employment as quick as I did when I returned home. So actually, when I came home, I was employed within 2 weeks.
That's awesome. That is definitely awesome. And I'm sure that's not everybody's story, but that is awesome that you were able to come and gain employment that quick, because that definitely probably made it a little easier to, get back with the program and society. I want to ask, now that you're home, are you doing any like outreach work or talking to people in the community, maybe young people, young or older, really, because people commit crimes at every age? Are you doing any outreach, and do you feel like it's been effective thus far with anybody that you've spoken to?
Yes, actually, I still involve myself with a program out from the Bronx called Network, which is what started in prison, actually.
What was it called again?
It's called Network.
Okay.
Network is a program where that you sit down with individuals and you discuss life pressures, so to say, and you work on ways of trying to solve those issues before they become a problem. I'm also involved with some of the educational programs that's done in the Long Beach Martin Luther King Center. So, those are a couple of things that I bring out and I continue to do as far as mentoring and paying it forward.
All right. And where do you see yourself, I would say, in the next 2 years of life?
Well, in the next 2 years of life, I see myself being a millionaire.
Hey, man, I received that for you.
I don't know if it's going to be a lottery ticket or whatever the case may be, but no. But in the next 2 years, I see myself being a lot more prosperous, being able to, again, continue this path of positivity. Having smarter and greater relationships, not only in my work field, but within my community, family, and friends.
All right. And last but definitely not least, to me, this is probably the most important part of today's interview. I would like to know if you have any advice to the listeners, old or young, as to how to stay out of these situations and why to stay out of situations that could land you in prison.
Yeah, sure. First and foremost, sometimes that saying, you have to think twice before you make a decision. I tell people, listen here, even if you got to think 3 or 4 times about making a decision, do that. Because once you make that decision and you put the action to that decision, you can't take it back. And you don't want to get yourself caught up in a situation to where that someone else has to take control of your life. You are in control of your own life. Keep it that way. You know what I mean? Anyone that has made, some people call it a mistake, but anyone that has made the choice to make those decisions that cause them to become incarcerated or cause them to become in some type of, that takes them away from what they love, learn from that situation and try to look at it and say, okay, listen, if you know better, do better.
All right. And actually, I forgot to ask you a question. I know a lot of people will be wondering, I know you were young. Did you have any children when you were sent to prison?
No, I didn't. And I still don't.
Okay, well, I asked that because, just to see how it impacted the people around you. But I would like to thank you for coming on and sharing your experience. Hopefully, I can have you on in the future again to where we can either dive more into this topic or maybe speak on some other experiences that you've had.
Yeah, I will welcome that, and I thank you for allowing me to take the time and express this with you in the program. Look forward to actually, speaking on other things if necessary. But yeah, we can always, dialogue and.
All right. So thank you everyone for listening to Layman's Logic podcast today. Today's topic, living within the prison system. We're grateful for our guest we had on, Mr. Robert Coward. Hopefully someone out there can be inspired to not only stay away from crime, to stay away from the prison system, but encourage people around you to stay away and to do the right thing. Now, if you want to listen to more Layman's Logic podcast, you can catch us on YouTube, Spotify. Thank you so much. And till next time, Layman's Logic. This is Lou, and we're out.